We are heading towards our final switchover when we move towards the summation and our last panel debate. But now, magazines do matter. We've again been hearing about other media eating our lunch. We've also heard about the need to promote magazine media's way of doing things, its unique benefits, particularly against the tide of data-driven selling that's been done by some other media outlets or networks. So what is it about magazines that works so well? Well, here to give us some insight into a campaign that's running in the US is the Chief Executive of the Magazine Publishers Association of the USA, Linda Thomas Brooks.
Thanks to those of you who are hanging in there for the afternoon. This is my first time at FIPP, so I'm happy to be here and happy to share the stage that so many great speakers have already graced over the last couple of days. Just to give you 1 second of background so that you understand what you're going to see. The MPA is the trade association in the US that represents magazine media, several hundred magazine media companies that cover several thousand magazine titles. So I work with publishers from very large to very small and talk about the power of their magazine brands across channels and formats. And I just came to the MPA the middle of last year. And my background is in advertising and marketing. I've been an ad agency person, run media groups, spent a lot of time in the automotive business. Uh-oh. Adjustment. All right, better, thank you. And so what I'm going to show you today is a snippet of how we talk about the power of magazine brands out in the advertising marketplace in the US. I spend a lot of my time, I've now been to hundreds of agency and client meetings talking about the power of brands to advertisers who are going to hopefully be supporting this journalism. So that's what I'm going to show you is a little snippet of that information. And we call this presentation Magazine Media Tells and Sells, and that's not just a cute alliterative title. It actually means something. And I'm going to share with you the research that demonstrates that magazine brands help tell stories and to advertisers help sell product, right? And those words are really important because the rhetoric that has developed around the magazine media business it is really important. And unfortunately, it has worked against magazine brands in large part, certainly in the US, but I think worldwide. When I talk to my counterparts here, in many cases, we're fighting the same fight, right? Which is the language about magazines, about the vitality of magazines, about things like being a legacy brand, right, which should be a point of strength, has become sort of a negative in the marketplace. I will tell you, I do not consider myself a dictatorial leader, but when I came to the MPA, the first thing I did, the very first thing, is I issued an edict to our entire staff. And I said, you may not use the phrase, print is not dead. You cannot use that phrase. Now why? Because it's the negative, right? Because every time we go out in the marketplace and say print is not dead, even though we include that negative word, it reminds people that they either had thought or maybe they should have been thinking that print was dead. And it just recycles the whole argument all over again. And that rhetoric about print being dead or not being dead ignores the reality in the marketplace, which is that there are a number of things that are really special about magazines. Here's the way we try to create a synopsis. Magazine media builds brands, I'm going to show you proof, and sells product, I'm going to show you proof, in a safe and transparent environment, right? Lots of brands talk about brand safety. Magazine brands have more than that. It's not just brand safety, it's that they're brand edifying, right? With demonstrable results, I'm going to show you those, and more rigor to prove it than any other media channel, right? It's all there in one place. And I shouldn't have to tell a room full of magazine people and editors, words matter. And every single one of these words points to proof that magazines work in the marketplace. So let me show you some of that. Again, why do these words matter? Because the rhetoric in the marketplace ignores the role that magazine brands play in an advertising environment. You've probably all seen some version of this purchase funnel, right? Most major marketers have a much more complex consumer journey. This sort of simplifies it. But what's happening in the marketplace is that magazines operate at both the top and the bottom of that purchase funnel. Last week, I was at the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers in the US. The ANA rolled out their research that said more than 2/3 of the brands that are their members that they track, which is over 400 brands, more than 2/3 of them did not show year-over-year business growth, despite the fact that their advertising expenditures went up. If you're a CMO and you have been allocating more and more of your dollars to advertising expenditures and you're not growing in the marketplace, you better be figuring out what your next role is, right? What many major US marketers have been talking about is the fact that they went too low in the purchase funnel. They spent too much time on digital tactics that are akin to direct marketing. And they forgot to put anybody in the top of the funnel. And guess what? That's what magazines do very, very well for brands. So part of the conversation that we have with advertisers and agencies is what is the strategic role that magazine media can play, and how is that going to help them get out of their current no growth or low growth situation? The rhetoric in the industry about, print not being vital and print being dead ignores the reach of magazine media brands. I know many of you have heard of or are familiar with our Magazine Media 360 product, which we do in the US, which aggregates the audiences of print audience through MRI, sort of the industry standard for US print audiences, with ComScore Nielsen. So we look at audiences for our magazine brands for over 125 magazine brands across all their platforms. And what you'll see on this chart is the growth that magazine brands have had in the last 2.5 years since Mag Media 360 started. The line on the top is the total audience across all those platforms, right? So you want to talk about the vitality of media brands? I'm happy to have that conversation because our brands are growing. The second line that's purple, if it looks purple to you, hopefully, is print plus digital, but with a big caveat, it's digital replica editions. And any of you who are into research know that digital replica is a very, very small percentage of the total audience, right? So this is essentially representative just based on the size and the scale of a print audience. And you can see that those numbers tailed down a little bit about 2.5 years ago, and they've been steady, pretty steady, up a little bit ever since. I think our last monthly report said they were up 1.6%. So magazine audiences in the US are massive, and they're holding really steady. And the lines underneath are the various other platforms, web, mobile, and video, digital video, right, which is very small, that red line, but growing by leaps and bounds. So what does this tell you about the vitality of magazine brands? That consumers are still holding on to their printed copies, and they're also adding to their media consumption all those other formats, right? And what that results in is reach that's really, really powerful in the marketplace. If you were here when Linda Yaccarino spoke, she talked about the results that television brands had in the upfront marketplace because they have massive reach. And she's right. American television does have massive reach, except that it's not quite as big as magazines, right? This is last complete Nielsen season averages, not episode by episode, season average for the last complete Nielsen season, laid against the spring MRI print only. This is not the total footprint, print only audience. And you can see that about 6 or 7 of the top magazines beat everything on television, including the NFL Sunday night. So again, you want to have the conversation about vitality? I'm happy to have that conversation because magazines win. And that rhetoric in the industry about, oh, we're being so disrupted and we don't know about what's happening in print ignores the results in the marketplace. I'm going to show you quick top lines from 2 research companies that are very well known in the US. This is a slide from Millward Brown. Millward Brown does market mix modeling. Most US advertisers, if they don't use Millward Brown, they certainly know of Millward Brown. And what Millward Brown does is, through a very complicated methodology, isolates the impact of different channels in the media mix to look at results in the marketplace. This is a roll-up of over 150 Millward Brown brand studies in 4 categories: consumer packaged goods, auto, financial services, and entertainment, right? This is not one of those studies where you find one good result and you show it on the slide. This is 150 brand studies. And you can see the sort of grayish color is where you have print and television working together in a media mix. And the light blue one is where you have online, print, and television working together. Now, having been an ad agency person, I'll tell you the dirty little secret of strategic communication planning is that anytime you add a channel, your numbers go up, okay? And that says this is true. But it also says that when you add print, your numbers go up the most. And these are various measures of awareness. So again, that top of the funnel, how do you get consumers into your brand? Top of the funnel, all your awareness metrics go up, including TV-specific ad awareness when you have print in your mix, right? This is how you build your brand, and this is how you sell your product, because Millward Brown also looks at lower funnel metrics, down to purchase intent. You look at that 17%, which is the lift in purchase intent when you have print in your mix. So, Mr. or Ms. Marketer, I can help you build your brand and sell product. When I was in agency business, we called that brand over time, sales overnight. And having magazines in your brand, in your mix, does both for you. Different research study. This is from Nielsen Catalina. Nielsen Catalina is a joint venture in the US between Nielsen, the same people who do a lot of media research, and Catalina, which is a loyalty card company. They measure purchases at grocery and mass merchandise stores. Last year, the chief researcher at Nielsen Catalina stood in front of a group of the Advertising Research Foundation and unveiled a roll-up of over 1,400 case studies. And they looked at their core metric that they represent in the marketplace is return on ad spend. For every dollar you put in the marketplace, what is your return? And Nielsen Catalina says, based on their roll-up of 1,400 case studies, CPG, that if you put $1 into your media mix in magazines, you get a return of $3.94. You do not have to have gotten too far past Economics 101 to know that $1 in and $3.94 out is a really good ratio. And marketers love seeing this because brand marketers often have their own personal performance metrics and sometimes their financial bonus predicated on metrics like this. So they really like seeing this information and helping them validate the power of magazines in their media mix. In the US, the magazine brands work together to do a money-back guarantee on advertising programs. Using a very similar methodology to Nielsen Catalina, they can measure the results of a specific campaign in a specific magazine schedule and guarantee a positive ROI. Magazines in the US have been doing this for about 8 years. There have been 80 measured campaigns that were guaranteed on a sales guarantee program, 80. 80 out of 80, every single one has delivered positive ROI for the advertiser. Every single case. I was presenting to a bunch of consultants and they said, you should make up a case that didn't work just because it would sound more credible. 80 out of 80 delivered. And the rhetoric about the lack of vitality in print also ignores the receptivity that consumers have to magazine brands. The way that most consumers have a relationship with magazine brands is that they called or clicked or sent in a card or wrote and said, here's my name, here's my home address, here's my credit card number. Please send me what you have. Because I'm interested in your content. I'm interested in news or business news or recipes or fashion or beauty or home decor, and I want what you magazine people have. Magazines are invited guests into consumers' homes. If you're an advertiser, you get to come along as a plus one. That's different from every other channel that is trying to force their way onto consumers' lives or onto their screen, and consumers just want to click off because they want what they want. That receptivity drives statements like this, which again are not just rhetoric, they're research statements from, in this case, Simmons, where consumers say magazine media is more trusted, inspired, and motivating than any other media channel. Or this one, magazine readers say the ads fit well within the content, more so than in other channels. And younger readers are especially receptive to advertising in magazines. What consumers have found in this very complicated media ecosystem is that magazine brands are a shortcut to quality. When they don't know who to trust, when they don't know what media brand represents real content, magazine brands are that shortcut for them. And we have a lot of neuroscience research that we share out in the marketplace, over 100 neuroscience academic studies, which all talk about the ways that people's brains are wired to understand information in print more so than information in any digital channel. And for those of you who are interested in this neuroscience, there's a white paper on our website that you can pull down, because it all adds up to consumers understanding, and if you're trying to sell advertising or sell advertisers on the benefit, better comprehension and recall of information that they see in magazine than in any other channel. So again, that rhetoric about the industry really ignores the responsibility that magazines have. And they mentioned the campaign that we launched in the US just last week. The red ad that you see here was on a big electronic billboard in Times Square yesterday. This is a collaborative effort of all of our magazine members that talk about the credibility of magazine media and pointing out to both consumers and advertisers the difference between magazine media and every other channel out there. So you're going to see this in the US a lot, and talk to some of my global colleagues here. I think there's a lot of messages here that will resonate with consumers and marketers across the globe. We think it's magazine media's moment in time. Many of you have seen the cards that we hand out. Literally everything that marketers are saying they want right now: brand safe environment, media that is measured in credible ways, proven effectiveness. Magazines are sitting on all those things. If there was ever a time where the rhetoric about magazine media should be positive, this is it. I came to the MPA just over a year ago because I believe in these brands. And I want my kids to grow up in a world where there is professionally researched, written, edited, produced, curated content. I think it's important to marketers, but I think it's important to our world. So I really believe in magazine brands, and I hope that after seeing this information today, you do too. Thanks for listening.
Can you take a question if there is?
Sure.
So if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll throw the green cube of power to you. As always, I have one, and it really is, are you finding that you're pushing on an open door with this campaign? I know it's very early days.
Yeah.
What's the reception being like from advertisers, brand owners? Are they open to this, or is this going to be a fight?
No, I think they're open to it. And again, I think we're I don't know if the door is wide open, but there's definitely like a crack in the door, and that is the fact that what they've been doing isn't working. Right? And so we can sort of step right into that and say, well, we have answers to that. And look, don't believe me, right? This isn't because Linda says so or MPA says so. It's all this outside research that we point to that shows how it works. I think the reception to the campaign has been really good. Interestingly, the voices that are always the toughest are the internal, the trade press magazines, who, in some amazing irony, don't want to talk about the wonder of magazines. But I think for our consumers and marketers, it has really seemed to resonate.
So it is working so far.
Well, so far it's literally a week. So.
Okay. One more quick question. Do we still have the green cube? There it is. It's coming your way.
I see the cube.
Oh, got it. Hi, Lavina from India today. Very interesting conversation, and we all have been having this outside this room as well. But you said magazine increases the brand value of the mix, so TV, digital altogether. But what about individual magazines, someone who is a lone magazine editor or publisher? What about that kind of space? How excited is market and the advertisers and about a single lone magazine, and how revenue driven can that be?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's hard, again, to prove the case with numbers is a little bit harder just because there's a measurement issue if you only have a single title. I think what you can use when you're a single title is that relationship that you have with readers. I mean, marketers tell me all the time they want to talk to their consumers in a way that shows that they understand them. And nobody understands their audience better than magazine editors. Nobody. And we have the conversation a lot about influencers, magazine editors really being the original influencers, right? When agencies want to talk about the power of influencers or bloggers, magazine editors have staked out that space long ago, and they know how to talk to consumers, and they know what they're interested in. So I think, again, that contextual relevance, and for a lot of our member magazines in the US, they'll also help advertisers develop, the advertising copy that goes with it. And I think what we've been able to prove is that editors can do that way better than advertising agencies who don't actually understand, the publication and the audience. So I think, talking about the power of that connectivity, because everybody is looking for that. Everybody's looking for, if you heard the word authentic once in the last couple of days, you heard it like 1,000 times. Everybody wants that authentic connection. There's no better way to prove you have an authentic connection than when you started it. Right? If you're a reader, you started it, you asked for the magazine. So I think that, I would sort of play that when you're playing the single title, game.
Okay. Sorry, I think we'll have to move on from there, but I'm sure you're around for another couple of minutes afterwards,
yes.
So we can always connect later. Can I ask you please to thank Linda very much? Thank you. Okay, now it's my duty to say that we've got a short break while we're joined by refugees from the specialist stage, and then we'll all be combined together for our final session when James will be taking over for a panel discussion and the prize draw. So just 5 minutes and we're restarting just on the nose of 1/4 past.